What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Shred Show Live. It is May 20th, and I have got new friend and very, very important person, Ed Batt, coming with us this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, you haven't heard him yet, but you're going to hear him in a second. Ed is absolutely brilliant. Plus, he's got a really cool accent. And we're on the show today. We're talking about the market. It is a white-hot market, and you need to know how to stand out. How can you separate yourself? How can you differentiate so you can continue to capitalize on an extremely hot market? Ladies and gentlemen, volume up, share this with your friends, tag all the important people because we're about to get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to shred. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another Shred Show Live. I am so excited. I have recently met Ed Batt, and I'm glad that I have because he is one of those guys that he not only does he sound brilliant because of his accent, like you're going to hear him just in just a second, but he literally is just packed full of so much knowledge and expertise. And he's one of those guys. He was with Bloomberg. We all know Bloomberg. We've heard of Bloomberg. He was with Bloomberg for over 18 years. Ed, that is absolutely insane. And now you've recently come into the mortgage industry and you recently joined the Black Knight team, which it kind of correlates, coincides with your long run at Bloomberg. We're excited to have you on the show because there's so many great things. We're going to be talking about PPEs. We're going to be talking about the white hot market. We're going to be talking about interest rates. But before we get into all that, Ed, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you, man.
Thank you. I hope I'm not too much of a disappointment after all that. I'll do my best.
No, you're going to do amazing. And before we get into all the technical side, before we're going to talk about a lot of great stuff, I want to get to know you a little bit. I mean, clearly you've got a brilliant accent, and this is terrible, Ed, and maybe this is just me a thing, but whenever I hear somebody talking in that like great British accent, I don't know why, but like I have to hold myself back from trying not to like replicate it because I'm like, man, Ed sounds so smart. I want to sound like a Brit, like I want to sound that way. But clearly, so born in the UK, correct?
Yeah, I was born in the UK. I am a Brit, and but I married a Texan, so trying hard to be Texan and fit in. But I'm not going to give you my Texan accent today.
I was going to say, do you have a Texan accent? Because that would be absolutely crazy. That's one of those things that sounds like the beginning of like a good joke. Like a Brit and a Texan get married, and then like just from there they could go anywhere. So, but that's like I said, now you've come, you're in Texas, and I like what appealed you to Texas? I know your wife is from there, but like, do you live on a ranch? Is it kind of like, are you like the yeehaw? We're in Texas, ladies and gentlemen. But is that the type of Texas life you live, Ed?
Well, I mean, I passed the test. My wife was she found me in England, and my wife found her. She'd been in England in London for I don't know 7 or 8 years before we met. So it seemed like she was assimilated, and so she kind of fooled me into getting married. And then as soon as we were married, she reeled me in back to the Texan way. But yeah, I must have passed the test somehow with her or her family, and now they've allowed me to live here. I've got a driving license and everything, so something must have worked. But yeah, I love it. It works great for me living here in Dallas, and couldn't be happier.
That's awesome. And being in Dallas, being here in the US, and I'm excited to talk so much. I mean, it is a white hot market. Interest rates, we hear about, I mean, the day yesterday, there was locks going out. MBS, we're getting messages, their rates are going up, lock. It is a white hot market. It's one of those times where we do really have to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. Oh, we got Dal coming in from Twitch, UK represent. I know Dal spent some time over in the UK. So yes, Dal, he is represent. We've had all kinds of fun guests. We've had from Alaska, we've had from Paris, we've had, I mean, all over the world recently. And now we have, UK represented, but being that this market is so hot right now, I personally, being in the industry, I've seen a significant amount of growth. All kinds of, it seems like there are brokers entering the marketplace and more investors are entering the marketplace. Is this something that you're seeing right now as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody really needs me to confirm that. I think it's well known. There's lots of stats out there. I think most recently we looked at Home Point. I think published some data in their report and accounts. I think they said 65 to 75% growth in the last 5 years. But we look at it, from some different angles. Our immediate experience is really we get to look at how many brokers up for our loan sifter pricing engine, and we look at it in terms of how many new wholesale investors are adding prices to that platform, in order to get them exposed to the broker community. And both of those channels have been white hot for us. I mean, we have, in terms of brokers signing up for loan sifter, we've probably tripled the number in the last 2 or 3 years. So that's a significantly bigger increase than what I just described from Home Point. It's very, very hard to really gauge the size of the broker community, but obviously it's growing. But equally, I think brokers are very, very aware that using technology is going to help them to do a better job, give a better service to their borrowers, be more productive, hopefully be more efficient. And that's what we're trying to do. On the investor side, I guess they look at it slightly differently. Of course, they want to benefit from increasing volumes in the mortgage market, but I think the margins are really great for them right now in wholesale, and they're recognizing the size of the broker community. We have over 120 wholesale investors who contribute to our platform. I'd say 10 or 11 of them, been added just in the last, just this year. We've Loan Sifters, has been around for, since the early 2000s. It's at least a decade old. We've had, the established wholesale brokers have been on there from the very beginning. It's a critical platform, and probably the major pricing engine in the market. But in terms of growth, people entering the market, that's the place they want to be to get exposure to the biggest number of brokers. So both of those have been very, very visible to us. There's been incredible growth in the market, but never overlook the fact that, this is still an industry which is just very, very excited to adopt technologies and things that are going to help it to be more productive and more profitable, but also to deliver, wonderful service to the public and the borrowers.
Absolutely. And I shared with you, Loan Sifter has been around for a long time. I use Loan Sifter. When I first got in the industry, that was what we used. That's what, when I owned my brokerage, that's what we used at our brokerage. Like, it's been around for a long time. Yeah. And like you said, it's been such a critically valuable tool for us in the broker community, for brokers. It is one of those things. It's like, yes, like this is something that is helping us. And now you guys are going through, and we're going to talk about this even more as we continue, but it's almost like version 2.0 or 3.0, or as it's continued to improve, but it's come from a base. Why I like it and why it's such a cool technology is it understands where it's come from, and now it continues to improve. It evolves. It's continually changing. It's getting better. So that's the exciting part. And that's what Black Knight continues to do. That's why these conversations are so relevant, and they're so helpful to the entire channel, to the entire industry, because it does continue to push the needle. It continues to help all of us improve, to get better. And like you said, ultimately, we're trying to make that consumer experience. We're trying to help the consumer not only get the best deal, but to have a seamless experience. So talk about this, kind of switching gears a little bit. Loan Sifter is a PPE. And for those who don't know what PPE is, we can talk about that a little bit too. But most of us know what a PPE is, especially if you're in the industry, you know it. But PPEs, for the longest time, they've been cumbersome. Cumbersome is like a nice word. They've been a little bit technical. They traditionally are a little bit difficult. But why is pricing, when using a PPE, why is pricing so critical to us in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, just to talk about, the PPE thing. I think with Optimal Blue previously, and now Black Knight for about 4 years. And I came from a different country and a different industry in some respects. Right. Very little knowledge about how the mortgage business worked over here. But Bloomberg is, may even have been, the kind of the precursor of all pricing engines. Which is essentially, aggregating pricing for often a disparate group of products to really represent, to make them comparable with each other and represent which one offers real value, in a market where people, maybe had been presenting products differently, to sometimes to make it harder for people to compare value and returns in different products. And that's what Bloomberg had been doing all that time. And the growth of that business was based on their success at being able to kind of translate products and prices and performance from various different, multiple different sources, and make them comparable and aggregate them from from the people who are providing them, and make it very, very clear to people who are buying them, how they worked, which ones were relevant to them, and which ones were going to deliver the best performance. And I love that business, and it's going on in across the world, not just in the financial markets, but in we all do it with airlines day to day, and we do it with rental cars and all sorts of different things, and so it's still incredibly relevant and still very much an evolving world in the mortgage business. And it's just fascinating to look at the broker community and the different ways that they like to operate with regard to pricing and the products that are available to them. And there certainly are still brokers out there who do a great job and are very happy to look at hard copy rate sheets. That works for them. There are multiple brokers out there who are incredibly well served by individual wholesale investors, using their portals and the massive support that some of those wholesale investors give them, and just happy to use a single wholesale investor and to work off just the product group, which can be very wide from some of the bigger wholesale investors, and that works really well for them. There are other platforms which will do a kind of credible job of comparing a small number of investors or a small number of products in some environments. That works for other brokers, but we feel like we've kind of taken it to the nth degree, and we feel like we have I can't say all, but very, very much the widest range of investors represented, very much the widest range of products. We're trying to encompass any kind of non-QM products so that we can satisfy all the brokers and all of their clients. We as I say, we got about 120 investors, and the thing we really try and do is to make their products comparable. We have a lot of people, and we spend a lot of time, and we apply a lot of technology to aggregate the different rate sheets and the different guidelines and certain specialities into one result, to do it very, very quickly, to make it extremely kind of readable and usable from the broker community, and something they can transfer very quickly to the borrower community. And then the thing about pricing is it's not just interest rates. It's there's a lot of components like loan officer compensation and fees and certain pricing adjustments and incentives that different investors might put in, which need to be incorporated into that. For a broker to give a really good answer, but it's the same. When I'm booking my holiday and an airline tells me I can get the cheapest flight, but suddenly I've got to pay $100 a suitcase, and I've got to pay to have a can of Coke on board, etc., and all sorts of other things. You want that stuff incorporated at the initial stage, and we've worked very hard to make that happen, and to be able to apply every kind of adjustment into the pricing, so that it really does become a valuable comparable aggregation of industry prices and products.
Well, I think that is such the brilliant part of it, because Ed, I remember back in the days when price sheets would come out every single morning, is you would get price sheets from basically every lender. You're looking at price sheets, and then they have like incentives at the top of it. So you're trying to look at incentives, then you're trying to add in incentives, and you're trying to wait a minute, our compensation is here too. So like you had people give us a lot of crap because they're like, oh, well, loan officers, they're not even good at math. Originators, brokers, they're not good at math. They have the calculator. But if you know what I'm talking about, rate sheets in the past, you all know what we've experienced back in the day when we were looking at rate sheets, adding in compensation, adding in incentives. But now, like you said, Ed, there's so many things that go in to the pricing. It's not just rate. So many of us in our industry just think rate when we're actually thinking about, it's a pricing engine. PPE, I had this question. It's a product pricing engine. Somebody asked that, what is a PPE? It's a product pricing engine. And LoanSifter and the tool that they've created is probably, like I said, probably been around the longest and probably one of the most relevant. Like I said, this is literally the tool we use. This is not, people know I don't originate anymore, but it's a tool that I continually use all throughout my career as an originator. I know so many of the brokers continue to use it. And Ed, this has continued to change. I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but really talk about Black Knight's PPE solution, because LoanSifter, as you kind of alluded to, it is the entire package. There's so much that goes into it, but there has been some recent updates, right?
Yes, yeah. I want to take just a step back, because it's just really interesting you talking about PPEs and product and pricing engines. And I guess I'm selling. I think it's the market's premier product and pricing.
It is by far.
For 4 years, and I still debate whether that E stands for engine or whether it stands for eligibility. Because eligibility is just, and honestly, it doesn't really matter what it stands for, but it's just very important for people to understand the relevance and the criticality of the eligibility component. So there are products which have wonderful prices, but the guidelines around eligibility can be very, very complex. And again, as a broker, there's nothing worse introducing a fabulous product to the borrower, only to tell them later, maybe 5 minutes later, or maybe in the underwriting stage, or maybe at a critical point near closing, that they can't have that product. And whether that costs you as the broker, or whether it costs the borrower, or the whole relationship is going to break down at that point. And so, in order to translate those guidelines to produce a really, really accurate eligibility result is absolutely critical. And again, the debate about is it really about pricing? Is that really what we're delivering, just the best price? Or is it about translating, all the criteria the borrower you can give you during the discovery process into, and matching it to the guidelines of 120 investors, and it's almost an infinite number of products, and all of them busy competing, trying to come up with different products and different tweaks and components to their products to make them more relevant or more valuable, or just to change the eligibility. We have to work very, very hard to keep up with that stuff and to be able to deliver an eligibility result which is just incredibly accurate, and to avoid disappointment on both sides. So that's just a debate, and maybe your viewers can tell us what the E really stands for. But
honestly, Ed, that was probably one of that explanation, and it's so true. Eligibility. I'm going to start calling that as the product price, or the product pricing eligibility, because that's what we're really looking at. We're looking at the eligibility of our borrowers. We're looking at what is the best option for them. We talk about this all the time on the show. Is we're not just trying to get the best price for them. We're looking at the best solution. We're looking at the best long-term solution, and this is helping with that eligibility. So I love that. Yeah. Now I'm changing it, Ed, officially here on the show today.
I'm not sure this is my place to. I'm not sure I can give you permission to do that. I mean, I'm just a visitor here. You have to ask someone more important to me what that really stands for.
I'll be honest. The British accent, it trumps everything else. So now, product pricing eligibility, ladies and gentlemen, that's it going forward.
So anyway, you asked me what's changed. I'd love to answer that question as well. So maybe I'll try and be more brief this time. But
no, it was perfect.
Yeah. So the first thing, the Loan Sifter, as we say, it's been around for probably close to 16, 17, 18 years. I think it's been a leader. I think they really introduced, the pricing engine concept to the broker community, and did a tremendous job. It's an amazing product, and it has been all that time. And people often say, well, so if it was built in 2003 or whatever, does that mean you used pieces of wood and string to build it? Is that old technology? And of course, we have a huge R&D department, and it's been developed and evolved and added to and improved over that time. But there comes a point where you really need to rebuild, and you need to produce to freshen up the user interface. You need to rebuild to allow you to accelerate into the next stage of evolution. And so that's what we've really done. Firstly, we have refreshed the user interface. So, and the most important part of that, I think, for most people, is that it's now, entirely mobile friendly. So I think you'll find it slicker, and it's a little bit more intuitive. But this mobile friendly aspect was, of course, the thing that was beating at our door all of that time. So that's great. There we are. That's what a mobile looks like for those of you who don't know. Thanks, Josh.
You got it.
Other components there are, the additional kind of overlays on pricing that we discussed. So we've really made it a lot easier to do things like lender fees, like pricing adjustments, like loan officer compensation, and to integrate that into the model, special investor incentive schemes, to make sure that your pricing really represents what the borrower is going to have to pay. The non-QM thing is something which we've been able to evolve quite a lot as well. So just to make it even more granular in terms of those almost infinite sort of range of criteria you can put in to match yourself with non-QM products. We have access to all of those products through our 120 wholesale investors, and we've tried to make sure that we apply fields and discovery that will allow you to make sure you get to the right and the most relevant product for your borrower. Integrations is another critical thing. So, of course, our integration with Encompass is top notch. Calyx is another one. Lending Tree is another area a lot of brokers want to be involved with, and that integration component is quite complex. So again, the new build has just made it a lot easier for us to accelerate into more integrations and to work on things like APIs, which are useful for individual integrations, but it could also be useful in the future for brokers to use to integrate with other parts of their tech stack or home built technologies that they may have. So it's a number of things which we think are going to make it really, really valuable, much more relevant for 2021, and really enable us to accelerate and to improve it and evolve it over the next 5 or 10 years as well. The other thing just to remember is the thing that people have really liked about LoanSifter, the broker community can be a little bit mobile, if you like, and so the sign up for LoanSifter is just still the same easy sign up. You literally have to go to a website. You can sign up. You've got a month-to-month contract. You pay a very, very small monthly fee. You can come in and out of the market at any speed, and you can be up and running almost instantly. So it'll take you less than a day to get going on it. So we think that's great. That's a bit of an ad. Sorry, probably.
No, throw it out there. I love those shameless plugs. That's what we're all about here. Well, here's the thing. I point to this is because our entire industry is becoming more and more like mobile friendly, from point of sale to PPE to you can basically you can do an entire transaction from a mobile device now. That's what's so cool about it. And it's integrations like you're referring to that are continuing to push the envelope. They're continuing to further our industry to make this a more, and you said this, a more efficient and more seamless process, not only for us as originators, not only for us as mortgage professionals, but for the borrower, for the client. That's ultimately what we're all here for. That's ultimately who we're all trying to serve. We're trying to help them achieve that dream of homeownership, the homeownership journey that I refer to so often on the show. And that is what is happening. Now, you also mentioned something too, coming from somebody who's a broker owner myself, is if you're a broker owner, if you're growing, having LoanSifter, having all that added into your LOs, like you don't have to worry about compensation. You don't have to worry about incentives. It's all, like you said, Ed, you've integrated with, over 120 wholesale lenders. All the incentives are built in there. Compensation is built in there. So you don't have to worry about it as a broker owner. You don't have to worry about that your LOs are accidentally pricing things out incorrectly, or they're giving that consumer the wrong, like, oh crap, we missed, a quarter of a point here on incentives that wasn't in there. You don't have to go do that. It's just all done for you. And again, that's what, when it comes to technology, when it comes to the evolution of our industry, those are the little things that I don't think we completely contemplate or we don't completely think about. Those are the little things that as owners, as originators, are saving us time, which ultimately we can use that time to build those relationships or really be focused in on our pipelines or focused in on the people that we're ultimately serving. So those are such critical points, Ed, that again, sometimes we may just glaze over that, or we may just go over that quick, but those are truly beneficial points to LoanSifter.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're trying to be a really, really good service. We've had 18 years or so of listening to brokers and listening to the feedback and trying to respond. And the refresh is a little bit to do with I think some concerns that we weren't always responding fast enough to the feedback we were getting. And I just think we're very excited because we feel like we're in a position to respond super fast and to really deliver, an incredible service going forwards, and just to keep evolving and responding to what the community wants and what the industry and what the market requires to keep doing that, to keep giving borrowers the best possible experience, to keep, speeding up the time to close, to keep on reducing, error counts, and just to give everybody a better experience.
Ooh, and we want all of you, the entire industry, you brokers out there, we want you to have a good experience. That's why we have great people on the show like Ed and Black Knight talking about the advances, what is happening in our industry, because we love you guys. We really want to see you thrive. And it's these little things, it's these improvements, it's these things where we're listening to you as a community saying, hey, Black Knight, hey, LoanSifter, we need to tweak this. We need to improve on this. And it's making It's making the changes so ultimately we can serve all of you, so you can ultimately go serve the consumers. That's what we're here for. So, Ed, this has been such a brilliant conversation. I'm so excited to hear that Loan Sifter continues to evolve, continues to get better, even from the version that I use, whether it was 2.0 back in the day, now it's version 2970 million.0 or whatever it is. It continues to evolve. It continues to improve. It continues to get better. And it's because of the great feedback, and it's because of the great companies like Black Knight who see where our industry is going and see really what is helping our originators thrive. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for sharing all that you did. And guys, if you do not have Loan Sifter, if you want to look into it, again, the link will be posted below so you can click on it. Like Ed said, it's right there. It takes you a couple minutes. You can really start having the best product pricing eligibility tool at your fingertips. That's it. No more product pricing engine. We changed it today on the show. I'm going to let everybody know. I'm calling Fannie. I'm calling Freddie. I'm calling everybody. We're changing the name, ladies and gentlemen. It's happening. So, Ed, thanks so much for joining us today, man. Really appreciate all your knowledge and expertise.
Thanks, Josh. Been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to definitely have you on the show again just because he's a wealth of knowledge. Plus, I love his accent, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I wish, well, I don't even want to try to replicate it because it just can't do it. But with that, as always, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for all of you to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See ya.